Yep.
Do you know much about Patreon?
Not a lot. I know like the general like gist of it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Hmm?
Built by musicians for musicians.
Ah, yes. Hmm?
So, what key are you in?
I'm in the same one as last week, working on some E flat major, looks like. Alright, here we go.
There you go. Excellent, excellent. So, all right, I'm not quite sure how to handle my language throughout the course of this, knowing that it's being filmed and all. But for those of you who are listening, that's exactly what I'm expecting from any students when they show up for a lesson with me. It is exactly that, in the order that Sean played those different variations of E flat major, and it was rather impeccable, by the way. Will you do one pass where vibrato becomes important? I know a lot of teachers, sometimes they dissuade you from, discourage you from vibrating. Thank you, Sean. And then the final step, you'll only have time perhaps to vibrate the first note, obviously, and then maybe the last one or two. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
What else have you prepared in E flat?
So I also worked on the single string stuff, trying to focus on being relaxed and stuff.
Excellent.
And then I also worked on the arpeggios, working on your new fingering for me. And then I was also working on the number 6 as well, with a different fingering that you were suggesting, I think. So yeah, I'll start with the single string stuff.
Awesome. sure we've discussed this, but for the broken thirds, way up there for this one, number 1 in E flat major, are you using a third finger for the top E flat?
I think I probably meant to, but I may have forgotten.
G.
So, yes.
Will you start right there with the broken thirds and substitute third finger for fourth for the top note? And the chromatic, just one more time for me.
Yeah.
Now, do I remember correctly that you were also in the choir there at school?
No, I don't do choir.
Okay, I was curious about that. Because often, in order to instill the tonality of a chromatic scale for any human being, singing those intervals, i.e. half steps, goes a long way. Often, if you can say it, you can play it. I say that usually as it pertains to rhythms, but in this case, it just might be true for your chromatic scale. I feel like everything's going your way on the way up. This second finger is the first obstacle to overcome. It wants to be too low. It's necessary to get the third finger out of the way to accommodate that. So, and then this is an A. You can match with open A. Separate those, and if you wish, well, let's go up and down. It's the best idea. I like it.
Yes.
Let's move on. Number 2, please, Sean. It's fabulous work. I'm really enjoying the results of this new strengthened pinky from you.
Yeah, I've been doing the pinky exercise at the beginning of every practice session as a warm-up. So,
Can you tell me a little bit about your experience having done that, and how often do you do it?
Yeah, well, it's like really quick and easy, and I do it at the beginning of every practice session. It gets my fingers like warmed up and sort of, acquainted with the fingerboard, if you will. And and I've seen really great results with it. preventing my pinky from flattening. Like, it still happens sometimes, but like now it's strong enough to where I can, like control it. And whenever it does flatten, it's either because like I just don't think about it, or yeah, I guess it's just because I just don't think about it. So.
It appears as though you're almost to the point where it's becoming second nature, because every single time it lands now on the fingerboard, it is indeed curved, and that was our goal. It's as simple as that. So nice work on that too. I guess we should just say it out loud that there exists online, on YouTube in particular, this pinky exercise that I released as my very first violin tutorial for students, and I believe that one is available to everybody. Because it's my first one, I used it as bait, to hopefully bring some other students into the picture. So. Excellent. All right, so number 3 is batting 100. Any concerns or celebrations?
No, I mean, yeah, overall, like in the beginning, I was sort of reaching a little bit low for the B flat there, but I don't know, I think overall it was okay.
Yeah. How about, it's never going to be a demand from anybody like me to substitute that 4th finger at the top of the broken thirds, but once again, I feel like we're high enough on the neck to justify that cheating. I call it cheating. At this point, and because perhaps it's on the A string and it's a little bit easier to get a hold of, it's quite possible and still pretty comfortable to do that with your 4th finger. But it's also just as comfortable. It's only a reminder for you, 3rd finger at the top of that. I don't need to hear it again. And let's do number 4. Right. So, contrary to my initial thought that perhaps this chromatic scale was not ingrained into your inner being, you just proved me wrong. That was excellent in the accuracy department all the way through. There's one arpeggio I might contest, and it was this one. last one. Very nice. Will you show me this here? So good. All right. Oh, again, another win for you. I had a student just yesterday who explained to me that E flat she found to be the most difficult of most of the keys. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure what is it she said. Something about, well, my answer for her, whatever was the issue, my answer for her was to imagine the enharmonics for any of those pitches that she's finding troublesome. So the left hand enjoys the thought of finding a D sharp in third position on the E string, for example, much more than it does an E flat coming down from an arpeggio like that. So you get the idea. I don't think that was the exact spot, but in any event, what else have you got in E flat?
Alright, and then we also have the continuation of number 5.
Okay, wow, great.
As you said. Yeah, here's what I have.
Sean. This was it was throughout the course of the arpeggios that I spoke with this other student about the enharmonic business. So finding a D sharp instead of an E flat for each of those descending shifts. It's easier on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true for you?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it would probably be easier.
Yeah.
So,
The fact of the matter is you don't need any attention in that department. Your descending shifts, you nailed each single one of them. So it's a non-issue for you. This, I believe this was your first week with the new fingering. How do you like it?
I think it's definitely a lot more straightforward than the one listed. It does come with its own quirks, like everything isn't in line, like you have to move a little bit. But I think it's definitely helpful mentally to just be like 1 3 1 3 and not being like 2 4 3 4 2. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it helps. So yeah.
Can we play that together one time? So this is the diminished arpeggio. Here we go. 1 2 3 2 2 3. I'm sorry, let me count that off again. I forgot that these are 16th notes now. So
Yeah.
1 E and a 2 E and And have you found any anchors for your left hand throughout the course of this new fingering for the diminished?
Well, the shift up to the A. Um, Part of the problem is that I don't entirely know what you mean by like anchors.
Okay, they are moments throughout the course of any passage of music or any of these vegetables where the left hand can be secure for even just a moment, you know? That's one of them for me because I can match that with my open A. To think of any other helpful advice I might give you for this new fingering, but will you give me one more by yourself? Okay, good. Thank you. So, this first finger on the A string is just after the first finger, it's a couple notes later after that same first finger on the E string, but this one is located a half step away.
Yeah.
Perhaps realizing just that much might help you get that into position quicker.
Okay.
You can start at the top if you like. Good.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
All right. So, very happy with your results here with the 3-octave arpeggios. It's fabulous work. I had something more to talk to you about on this subject. Freezing up. Oh, it's this. At the top of each one of these arpeggios, the only thing I can't fix for anybody is that distance between the third finger and the fourth finger. And it's not just the first arpeggio, this same phenomenon exists for damn near all of the arpeggios. So just simply realizing that and knowing that it's a must, we have to accomplish that distance. So predict your own future and make the decision to go ahead and stretch the fourth finger when you get to that spot. And pop that bugger right out at me. Can you do it?
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is the first arpeggio minor.
Yeah.
Very nice. So now, at this point, after you nail that, find a D sharp instead of an E flat with this subsequent shift.
Yeah, I think that does help.
All
Yes.
right, all right. I'm impressed today. Any work on intervals?
You mean like number 6?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was trying to do the fingering that you suggested of, sort of like making things easier. Except I know that you always say like take advantage of the half steps, but I wasn't able to really find any like full half steps, like there were half steps like on both notes. So, but I tried to incorporate like taking advantage of like one half step here and there, but I'm not sure if it's like how you do it.
Okay. Let's start at the top there. Nice work. Nice work so far. And we're going to start at the top and elevate your hand so that you can incorporate this new pinky. What's that mean when I say elevate your hand?
I assume just like bring it up.
Yeah, to be more specific, perhaps I should say bring the thumb around. It could sometimes just result in millimeters of difference. So. All right, good. So, aside from the dog fest there, oh wow, it's a cutie.
I think she thinks that's the doorbell ringing.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. She doesn't bark when she's held usually, so yeah. Anyway, so go ahead.
All right. I have a little puppy here. I'm not sure if I've introduced you to her, but yeah, I'm a new dog lover. It's a new thing in my life, and I love it.
Oh, well, that's good.
And then, imagine the condition that you were in not so very long ago with regard to double stops in general. And
Yeah.
realize how far you've come. I mean, it's really impressive to watch and hear you grow. Nice job with the curved pinky with this new elevated approach here. It's important. And I had something, what you were experiencing just now at the very top, this is after the 2/6, and then we have this one. Sometimes your left hand just might be right on the money with both notes, but if the bow isn't running properly, you're not going to get a fair representation of having achieved that goal, that hard work. Realizing this. So just move the bow along. Let's do a couple separate bows here from the top. Great. In the fingering department, what you just served me is the most logical set of choices.
Okay.
Yeah, go with that. Now, with regard to the ascent, there may be a couple adjustments that would behoove you, but we can really get into that on a more detailed level at maybe the next lesson, or maybe even I'll see you again this week, perhaps. There are a couple things I would like to hear from you. Number one is this. Can you do that? Anywhere within the descent here. I'm pretty sure you had a 4 and a 2 for this one. First position. Good. Well, this is the first little taste of getting your left hand acquainted with what will soon be your new tempo for these feats, these miracles you're pulling off. It's really fabulous, man. Right on the money, in tune. Today, your accuracy is just through the roof. So the other thing I wanted to point out was this tricky 4/0 business. A lot of times the natural inclination is to somehow play just the G string, you know?
I tend to do that, yeah.
Everybody does. I did too, so. Give me that, will you? Yeah. Not much bravado there. With regard to fingerings, let's look at this a different way. Instead of the half step and taking advantage of any half steps throughout the course of your ascent for the thirds, let's instead look at the shape of the line, and at each peak, at each moment that it comes back down for a short descent, let's prepare in advance so that those moments are this isn't the best example, this first one. This one will be. So that at the top of each of these peaks, you're met with a 4 and a 2.
Okay.
Now that much might just solve any of the other fingering issues that we would mark in there.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. So you said, okay.
For this first one, I'm going to go ahead and suggest, at least just for today, that we knock it out here in first position. Excellent. So just like that. Just like that. And no longer do we have to identify each one with numbers and put numbers above each of these double stops, because we're just going to follow the intuitively follow the pattern and the shape of the line and adjust the left hand accordingly. Nice job. That was your first effort with that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I wish you knew how cool. So listen, let's just take this opportunity, since you're passing with flying colors on every single one of these, and push the tempo. Let's push yourself just a bit and see where is the breaking point. maybe this fast. You want to try?
Okay. That may be the breaking point. Hold on, let me try again.
You're welcome to go just a little slower than that, wherever you think is most comfortable.
Okay.
Wow. Are you
So-
doing anything? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying I can work on increasing my tempo and like focusing on that.
You totally should.
Hmm?
You totally should, because you know your intonation is impeccable.
Great.
I remember when you looked at me and you said, you know, it might not happen this week, but it will happen. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you weren't kidding. I had one more thing to suggest for you on this subject. It'll come to me. Will you play a little bit more the same routine here? Okay. Okay, thank you, Sean. You know, often I remembered what it is I want to communicate to you, and it's this. Do you play any guitar?
No.
Okay, and maybe I've already mentioned this to you in the past, but guitarists are well served to practice not only the chord itself, but also getting to the next chord from the chord prior and what is necessary to achieve that. So it's important to practice that, getting from point A to point B without having any artifacts.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
any remnants of the double stop prior to where is your new position. And here's an example of a faulty. This is the bad way. Okay. You know, just for one off on two other strings. And then we go right back to business where we were. It's important to get that done without any extraneous noise. So, how might you combat that?
Like, well, then moving and then playing, I suppose. Like, you know, shifting and then moving your bow.
Let
as
me
opposed to,
let me serve for you what is my version at this very moment, which, by the way, I haven't touched the fiddle all day. This would be my answer. Did you notice anything?
well, it seemed like you know, stopped the bow when you shifted for like just an instant, pretty much.
Okay.
Is what it looked like to me.
What's it sound like?
Well, I mean, it doesn't sound okay. You did stop your bow, but it just sounds very smooth. I don't know what to say.
I guess to verbalize this that's why I'm asking you, is because it's difficult to verbalize this. My dad used to tell me, you don't know anything until you can explain it to somebody else.
Oh, okay.
And man, was he right about that. So in this particular instance, I have used the word finesse the bow in the past, and that has worked with students. Just going with that, let's see what happens for the first turnaround there. See if that helps at all. Finesse the bow. Already better. It's also just noticeable. I'll just say that it's noticeable. The same thing when any of these shifts. How might you smooth that out?
I suppose practicing the shifts.
Will you give me this much? This will be an up bow, sir. Yes, now without the hole.
Yeah, that's pretty much the best thing to do.
Yeah, the first effort was quite good, too. So you're already getting results just simply applying any attention at all to it. That was terrible. So I'm letting a couple factors weigh into this. Number one, I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm at the tip of the bow for that particular transaction. It's lighter at the tip of the bow, and we don't have to work so hard to finesse the shift. Let's see if we can find a more difficult one here. That will be difficult enough. This next one, the one coming right up from the middle two strings up to the top two strings. Will you find that for me and roll on through it? Or just pick it up where we stopped, if you don't mind. So, you had two in a row just now where we have no choice but to execute the same concept at the frog, where it isn't so easy. Can you see anything that I'm doing that might suit you?
Well, I mean, like, it's hard to explain it in particular. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel,
I do.
yeah, I feel like for me, the biggest part of my problem is just the fact that like I'm not super solid with my shifts, so I don't like super know exactly where I'm going. So I think there's like a tiny bit of fumblage, which can, you know, obviously impurify the sound. But and I see like, you know, it seems like you're moving very smoothly and like very controlled. But
Have we
yeah,
talked about this?
no, we haven't like talked about it.
Okay. This is a subject I spent about a year and a half addressing with my teacher. I think I've mentioned her name to you in the past, Camilla Wicks. And she was very adamant about this particular subject because it's important. This section of the stick is so very valuable. It's where we get all of our power. You know, whenever you want to make a big tone, it's important to be able to play comfortably in all regions of the bow. So in order to accomplish that for something like this, I would describe it like this. Going opposite the weight of the stick as you traverse the frog area, the bottom portion of the bow, by simply lifting up the weight, alleviating that pressure, and thus finessing the bow. Let's try that.
Okay.
Will you do that? Start anywhere. It's nice. Immediate results. Do you hear the difference?
Yes, yes. So it seems like the biggest factor to smooth the shifts is simply to, like, you know, reduce pressure when shifting.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Go on.
Like, so yeah. Oh wait, what?
Sometimes I feel like I interrupt you guys before you're done with the communicating a thought, and it's, you know, it's the delay on Skype or whatnot. But did you have more to say there?
No, that's pretty much it.
That's very important. You know, the whole idea is this paintbrush motion, and I was getting ready to tell you all about it, and then I got derailed there. But in slow motion, it's about right here that the wrist takes over the stroke and begins its downward descent before the bow does. So and that's what we spent a year and a half addressing. Yeah, by the end of that year and a half, it really was very much improved. I don't think it's going to take you even close to that long. So you're already getting immediate results. Can you take me, let's just pick a spot here, like and let that paintbrush motion along with the lighter touch finesse the stick. Are you feeling the difference?
Yeah. I'm like, I understand the concept and I know how to apply it in the future. So yeah.
Awesome, Sean. Anything else in E flat?
Nope. I think that's pretty much it.
Great. Etude today?
Yeah. So you had me start in the Kreutzer book.
Oh, sorry. Before we put the flesh away, we should just be sure that we're on the right track for the next key. Obviously, you've graduated, so what is a relative minor to E flat major? Without looking.
C minor.
Good for you. And how do you do that trick?
Well,
What's the thought process?
well, actually, I didn't know the answer. It was just the next scale in the book, so I just assumed that's what it was. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have much theory training, and yeah. So, but tell me, like, how you know?
Yeah, it's, I cut right down to the chase with students on subjects like this because I like the shortcuts. It saves time and energy. It's simply going down a minor third.
Ah, yes.
So if you're in E flat, C minor.
Yes.
E flat major, the relative minor, makes it down a minor third, brings us to C minor. So that's it.
Fantastic.
Knock off as much of that as you can do comfortably this week, and I look forward to hearing that at your next lesson. Any questions about this flesh business?
Nope, it looks straightforward.
All right. It's also a fantastic key for continued study on intervals, particularly thirds. If you get bored at any point, feel free to sink on into those octaves, which I believe is number 8.
Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
All right, and between 6 and 8 is number 7, which are sixths.
Ah.
It all gets very confusing when you're dealing with the numbers of the intervals versus the numbers of the exercise and so on and so on. But you won't get bored.
Okay, that's good. Alright, cool.
And you're in Kreutzer these days.
Yeah, I just started the Kreutzer. So yeah, I was trying to look at like the first few exercises. But yeah, we'll obviously start with the first one and see how that goes. So this one, it says the tempo is Adagio Sostenuto. Soon, on my metronome, it says it's around like 66 to 76. So yeah, so I'm gonna set my metronome at 76 to help keep me honest.
Okay.
This exercise is like really slow, and I would want to like suddenly speed up a lot.
All right. It's fabulous performance, Sean.
Alright, cool.
How much time and effort did you put into this etude?
I probably practiced this one at least at first, probably like for half an hour for a few days, and then like 15 minutes for another, pretty much a day after that. So yeah.
And how do you feel after having accomplished this goal?
Pretty good. For a while it was really hard for me to like find some of these shifts and stuff like high up on the same string because I'm not used to doing that. But at least for most of them, I was able to find them pretty well. And yeah, and obviously like the bow saving's pretty annoying to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I was able to have a pretty good amount of bow control throughout the thing. So yeah, I'm pretty happy.
That's one of the best performances I've ever had from a student in my studio throughout the years.
Cool.
Yeah, this Kreutzer, it's infamous for being exactly, what you've discovered it is. Aggravating.
Yeah.
So, flying colors, and all the way down to those details that you were able to execute just now with dynamics and the whole ball of wax. It was fabulous. Really fabulous work. Now, let's knock out these few issues, just a few issues that you'll be able to look out for your own students in the future.
Okay.
Third line, we have and then this. That sounds different, doesn't it?
Yeah. I thought I was playing it right, which is weird. But yeah.
Let's find exactly. I should have had you play that before I gave you the answer, so that you could do the A/B comparison study. But now you're on the lookout for it, and I can't get you to mess it up on purpose. So I'm not sure exactly where it was. That it was only one step off from what's actually written for that particular measure. Well, you begin at the beginning of the third line, and let's see.
Okay. That was that.
I remember now, hearing you do it again, it was exactly the downbeat of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 8th bar, where instead of repeating the G, I believe you went down another, to an F natural.
Yeah, precisely, yeah. So that,
Yeah, fixed. So aside from that, there are only 2 other things to have a look at. Where you see the first set of 16th notes. Will you play right there? Very nice. And how about the next set? Very nice. And the next set. touching them all now.
Yeah.
How about the next set? Good for you. The last one, please. All right. So in this case, and because of the, almost flawless performance you gave, this demonstration of a new level of mastery over the stick for you, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's a whole, you're a better player as the result of this exercise. Make a note about these F naturals specifically so that you can be on the lookout for those when you have the opportunity to torture your own students.
Yes.
And then perhaps maybe you'd like to identify also the same phenomenon where it isn't the first time I've heard somebody not repeat that G. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Nope. Makes sense.
Nice work, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting way up there into the stratosphere with accuracy, vibrato, expression, new level of control over the bow, dynamics. Have you looked at the next one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's marked Allegro Moderato.
Yeah.
And I assume that's between Allegro and Moderato, which would be 120 beats per minute. So unfortunately, I can only pretty much play it comfortably, more or less at 100 beats per minute. But I was working on the tempo. Yeah, and maybe you could give me some spiccato tips because, yeah.
You got it.
Because so a little bit of backstory. So like I've done spiccato work in the past, but I sort of like haven't for a while. Like for instance, I had to work up that hard excerpt that's commonly used from Midsummer Night's Dream. Yeah, like that thing. Like I've had to work that one up, but yeah, I sort of forgot how to do spiccato properly apparently. So there we go. Oh wait, no, that's not Midsummer's Night Dreams. I was just singing this one this time. Right.
What were you thinking of, though? The Schumann?
I think so. Yeah, I can't play it right now. But
I'm with you. That's a common excerpt for symphony auditions. And you were right the first time. The Midsummer and the composer you mentioned.
Sorry, what?
The composer you mentioned for that.
I forgot who it was by.
Well, you said it.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It was before I said Schumann.
I can just Google it real quick.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
The Schumann is every bit as, common when we see it as part of the preparation for any audition of this. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't heard that one. Just Midsummer Nights. So, but anyway, this one is also sort of hard in some parts. So yeah.
Yeah.
In one particular part. But here's what I have.
I'm ready. killing it. Just killing it. Bravo. Bravo.
Yeah. So that's what I have so far.
Now, did I send you my own version of this etude with my own fingerings?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I like most of them except for like one particular spot. But yeah. But
Well-
I was using the ones that you wrote in. Yeah.
What was the particular spot you didn't like?
Page 5, line 2. Or actually, I'll think that it's that. I think I'm still using it. It's just actually no mind. I'm using all your fingerings. It's just like it was like a little bit scribbly. I thought. So I like scribbled that out and then wrote the same thing right above, so that way like I could read it better because I was being confused. But yeah.
Got it. Hey, once again, a fabulous performance at this tempo for this etude.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Congratulations.
Hmm?
Let's dissect this just a little bit. So, take me that part, will you? All right. And do you hear anything that might be improved on the subject of clarity?
I mean, sometimes it's a little bit scratchy.
There's a particular note that isn't being missed, but it's not clear as a bell either. Have another listen.
Is it the D?
It is. It's the third finger D, so let's aim for it. All right. Excellent. You hear the difference?
Yeah.
Oh, as clear as a bell. All right, next chunk. Give me one more of those, will you? That's excellent. All right, next chunk. Be particularly on the lookout for this D. Feel free to slow it down. You can feel free to slow it down just a bit. All right, good enough. Very nice, Sean. So let's take a moment to realize that we're not trying to save lives here. Take a breath and... All right, so at this point we should probably cover a couple of these fingers. We've got... And then what are you doing?
And then using your fingers.
You know what? I'm going to get out the other page that I've had for decades. This is one of my favorite etudes to cover with students. Just one moment. I'm excited for you. I wish there were an opportunity for you to get this summer job behind the F-holes of your violin.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, me too. That'd be probably more fun.
Music, Alex. It's under music. Music. Etudes. And there. It's not there either. Tell me a story.
I've been looking for a college roommate, and there's this website. It's called My College Roomie, and sort of like a dating app, except instead of finding a romantic partner, you're finding a room partner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I found a few people, but frankly, it's hard to find people who are the proper mix of intelligent, driven, and also not like too nerdy, I suppose, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, there are a few potential candidates that I find to be rather admirable. So yeah.
Very nice. That was a good story.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm going to slide you this page while we're talking so that you have maybe what is a different set of fingerings for this etude. It's not any more difficult. Actually, I would imagine, and the reason I'm sending it is because perhaps you'll find it more convenient. Actually, there it is. I've already sent it to you. So that's the one you're using.
Yes, I think. Well, I didn't actually. Okay, so you sent me this, and then also the complete files of like all the Kreutzer.
Yeah.
And I printed out the first few in that. So I didn't actually look at the fingerings there because I assumed that they'd be the same as the other ones.
A pretty wise assumption, but no.
Okay. Hold on. Alright, so let me write these in real quick.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. And it's not only because of the fact that we want to accomplish this, which, I mean, obviously you're going to be passing this today too. It's really incredible work from you today. But also because eventually, maybe even starting now this week, I'm going to have you swing it.
Okay.
So
now I have the new fingering for at least on one spot.
Okay, good. The only change would be to, instead of this, well, it's just a chicken scratch there on the third note, but let's use open A's. So, open, and then this is just a half step, as you know. And then an open A once again.
And then you go up into third here.
So, I traverse from third to first position quite often throughout this song. In this case, we're just using the open D to get back to first position.
Okie dokie. So it's and then is it the same as so
Yes. One. And then still in second position for a 1 on the F.
and then into third?
Yes, with a 3 on the B natural.
Yeah, 3 on the D natural? Okay.
So, I'll shout these out at you here. From the C natural in the bar prior, we have open D to get back to first position. One, 2, open A, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then this open A brings us once again back to first position. Then there isn't anything else to worry about until the last bar of this line. I'll let you clobber that much.
Like that?
Exactly.
Okay.
We're using that same concept, i.e. second position, and treating it like the friend it is instead of the feared, alien land. This is all second position from the G natural in the middle of that bar. That's a 1.
And which line is it? Sorry.
The last bar of that line.
Okay. Yeah. So it's. Is that where you are?
Let's go from the beginning of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we can reduce the tempo for logistics here.
Okay.
Nice. So I believe you did this correctly with the last measure of that line. 1, 2, so 4, 2, open E. And then my only suggestion for the next passage is using fourth fingers. That next measure.
Yeah. Okay. So that's fine. And then you move. Like that?
Do it again for me. Yes.
Okay.
Now, as complicated as that might seem right now, I believe with just a little bit of time in the practice room, you're going to find that that's actually very convenient. That's my hope anyway.
Yeah, because then you don't have the extra cross in there, so yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be a pattern for your fourth finger, each bar, using fourth fingers. 4, second position, 4. Then you're out of the woods there for at least a moment.
So when you go up into second position, right here.
That's right.
Okay.
A 2 on the A.
Cool. Fantastic. Back in the first again?
Yep.
And then you're in first?
Yeah, only to add the fourth finger E there at the end of that measure. Oh, sorry. Last beat, fourth finger.
Okay.
In this next measure, i.e., last line, first measure, 1, and then I see that I've got a 2-2 there, which takes us from third position to first, but it just now occurs to me that it would be even easier to use an open E, as was printed.
So.
I like that.
Okay. Is there any other cool stuff?
Second beat of the last measure, second position.
That makes sense. Because then you have to stretch it. Okay.
All right, let's see if you've got the whole thing, with the new fingerings and all. Will you play from the top?
Okay.
Nice work. You do have all the fingerings now. You do indeed. Once again, just one last reminder with the first measure of the second to the last line, establish the pattern for this fourth finger business by using the fourth finger instead of the open E. And that somehow, I've found that conditions you for the next measure to do exactly the same pattern.
Yes.
It just helps.
So you say the second measure of the last line?
The first opportunity to use the fourth finger in lieu of the open E happens in the first measure of the second to the last line. So
Yeah.
second beat. That's your fourth finger. And then second position. And it's the same deal here with a fourth finger F natural. Oh, that was horribly out of tune.
Okay, so okay, yeah.
You got it.
Sweet.
All right. Don't be afraid to push yourself with tempo. There's no such thing as too fast for this one.
Okay.
I've actually used this and still use this etude every now and then as an encore of sorts.
Cool.
That's because it's easy, it's low maintenance, you don't have to practice it a whole lot, you know, once you really have it ingested, internalized.
Yes.
With regard to your concern about spiccato, I don't see or hear any issues.
Okay. Yeah.
Show me this. Very nice. So, let's just pretend your left hand is quite comfortable with all of the changes we've made, and bravely show me this here. At least you'll get through the first few bows. So.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah. So.
Excellent, Sean. All right, so this is, you want to polish this up to your final performance level?
Sure. Yeah. You said also something about like swinging it eventually.
Yeah, I want you to begin that process right away. All this involves really is alternating your bowings in such a way that it is, well, first of all, no longer spiccato. And just a brief sample here. Are you noticing a pattern yet?
Yeah.
The pattern is simply to add a hook. It's called a hook in the fiddle world. But in our world, it's more referred to as a slur. And they happen in the same spot every measure. So it is the last 16th note of the first beat that leads us through the second beat, and then we change back to normal with the second half of the second beat. Will you try that? And maintain that same pattern. Okay, let's get one good one so that we're on the same page. Up, down. Now, one more time. Up, then down. Down on the D. Um, yeah, so maintain that bowing pattern for as long as you can until we're met with the first obstacle. And the good news is it'll be a minute before we have to address anything. Enjoy the ride.
Yes.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Will you play from the beginning with this new pattern, new bowing pattern?
Okay.
Right. So nice work. And it's at this point that we have to do something different to accommodate the left hand. Because to expect a slur throughout the course of that shift there is just, it's too much. The land of fiddle should make things easier, not harder. So we want. So basically it's this, Sean, is instead of my giving you a hardcore solid plan for bowings, just know from this first experience with the first 3 lines that you executed beautifully just now, that's the general idea. We want this fluidity with a nice bounce on beats 2 and 4, and we accomplish that when in doubt by making every effort to allow for down bows on those beats 2 and 4. If you can simply manage that much, you'll end up with a killer swing version of this, which happens to be recorded also on YouTube. I did this both ways. You can find me performing it legit, straight up. It's pretty fast with these fingerings that we've discussed. And then hopefully at the end of that, you'll see the option to hear the swung version. I believe it would be found like, I think I called it Kreutzer swung.
Okay, cool.
All right. So I'll leave it to you to establish whatever are the answers to maintain that bounce from this point in the etude till the end. I'll be very interested to hear what your answers are.
Yeah.
Anything else today? It's been a long one.
Yeah. I mean, like, we've covered a lot of stuff, so I wouldn't want to, like, take too much of your time.
Oh, we ate up a lot of time, but here's the thing, and I want to be sure that this is very clear for anybody who's listening to our lesson today, and that is for, any student, any age who shows up with the determination and the preparedness that you've demonstrated regularly, what we end up doing, as you know, is scheduling yet another session that same week, which is free. It's completely free from any charge. And that's when we can really dig into what has been your main course, I'm pretty sure that's Bach, yeah?
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's coming, like, I'm still humming, like, it's still obviously pretty hard, but I've been trying to focus on essentially just using more bow and trying to connect things. Currently, what I'm having is, like, I'm able to connect some parts, but then, like, I'm having trouble connecting all the parts, so I suppose that's, like, the next step,
Uh-huh.
So.
Are you pressed for time right now?
No.
Are you willing and able to perform this for me in the condition that it currently is? And then we'll schedule, okay, and then we'll schedule a session here, another session this week where we can dig in and attack some of these things. So it is they who practice who end up eating up all of their lesson time to the point where I really have no choice but to hear them again that week, you know, for rapid growth on the violin. The most rapid.
Yes. Alright, so here it is. Yeah, it's still pretty work in progress, of course. Okay.
right, Sean. Thank you. Thanks. So, are you available tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay, what time do you like? You're my only candidate tomorrow.
Let me think. Well, what times do you like the most?
Afternoon. Anytime afternoon would be perfect.
Check
My
my schedule. So Mondays, I have.
Tomorrow's a holiday.
Yes, that's fine though. I'm free after 3:30. So if we could do like 4:30 would be good. Alternatively, we could do like 2:30. That could work.
Okay, you have a thing at 5:30 p.m., yeah? Okay.
So we could do 2:30 tomorrow.
2:30 sounds wonderful.
Hmm.
All right. In the interim, between now and tomorrow, perhaps you'll have some time to address a couple things that have to do with interpretation, really. So this section can be subdued, okay, until this downbeat where the paint becomes peeled off the ceiling with sound. So it's a subito forte, really, on that downbeat.
Okay.
Aside from that, I don't really have anything else to have you address. Oh, same subject, interpretation, where we have without looking at the book. So on the string, off the string, on, off.
Okay.
Nice work, Sean. I'll look forward to tomorrow. Bring your boxing gloves.
All right. Sounds good, Alex. All right. Thank you.
See you then.